There exists a ruler whose legacy echoes through the corridors of time, an enigmatic figure who rose to power in ancient Egypt, forever altering the course of history.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Eventful Insights. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm joined by the one and only Josh.
Hey everyone, great to be back with you, Nick.
Absolutely, Josh. Today's episode is going to be a fascinating journey back in time as we delve into the life and conquests of one of ancient Egypt's most legendary pharaohs, Thutmose III.
But before we start the episode, I want to ask our audience, what do you think are the qualities of a great ruler? Let us know in the comments down below.
Now let's start. Thutmose III, born in 1481 BCE, was the offspring of Thutmose II and a secondary wife named Iset. Thutmose II, as the reigning king of Egypt, was wed to Queen Hatshepsut, a formidable woman and the daughter of Thutmose I. Following Thutmose II's demise, Hatshepsut assumed the regency due to Thutmose III's youth.
You got the facts straight, Nick. But before becoming the ruler of ancient Egypt, what was the kingdom like? Well, during Thutmose II's rule, Egypt enjoyed a period of political stability and economic prosperity. The power dynamics were characterized by a balance between Thutmose II and his influential wife, Hatshepsut, who not only was the daughter of Thutmose I, but also held the prominent position of the Queen of Egypt. Hatshepsut's popularity and influence played a crucial role in consolidating Thutmose II's leadership. Thutmose II's reign witnessed the continuation of Egypt's territorial expansion through military campaigns in regions such as Nubia and the Sinai. The economy thrived, and Egypt maintained its influence in the region by enforcing tribute and appointing governors.
Thutmose II passed away at approximately 30 years old, and his remains were discovered in the Deir el-Bahri cache above the mortuary temple of Hatshepsut. The circumstances and reasons behind his death have never been definitively determined. His mummy displayed indications of post-mortem injuries, such as hacking on the anterior abdominal wall and the severing of his right leg. Despite these observable injuries, the precise cause of his demise remains elusive. Following Hatshepsut's assumption of the regency and then declaring herself the pharaoh, a power struggle ensued between her and Thutmose III.
Hatshepsut's rule was initially portrayed as a joint leadership with Thutmose III, but over time, she assumed complete pharaonic authority, sidelining Thutmose III. Following Hatshepsut's death, Thutmose III endeavored to obliterate her legacy by dismantling her monuments and expunging her name from historical records. This struggle for power highlights the intricate dynamics of royal succession in ancient Egypt and the difficulties faced by female rulers in a predominantly male-centric society.
Finally, we're getting into the exciting part. Thutmose III's rule. Thutmose III's leadership was characterized by remarkable military triumphs, skillful diplomacy, and the extension of Egypt's impact in the area, establishing his standing as a formidable conqueror. His military victories stemmed not only from his prowess in warfare, but also from his adeptness in forging strategic alliances and sustaining diplomatic relations with neighboring regions.
Thutmose III conducted a minimum of 16 campaigns within a span of 20 years, earning him the moniker the Napoleon of Egypt from American Egyptologist James Breasted, due to his conquests and expansionist endeavors. Historical records indicate that Thutmose III captured 350 cities and extended his dominion across much of the Near East from the Euphrates to Nubia through 17 documented military campaigns. Notably, he achieved the feat of crossing the Euphrates, a milestone not accomplished since Thutmose I during his campaign against Mitanni. The records of these campaigns were meticulously inscribed on the walls of the Temple of Amun at Karnak.
Thutmose III transformed Egypt into a formidable international power, establishing an empire that spanned from the Asian territories of Syria in the north to Upper Nubia in the south. Much of our knowledge about Thutmose as a military leader comes from the writings of his royal scribe and army commander Thununni, who documented his conquests and reign. Thutmose III's success in expanding his realm can be attributed not only to his military prowess, but also to advancements in military technology. The introduction of advanced weaponry, potentially brought by the Hyksos around 1650 BC, including horse-drawn chariots, played a crucial role. As Egypt drove out the Hyksos, they assimilated this technology, providing Thutmose III with a significant advantage. Surprisingly, neighboring kingdoms offered little resistance, facilitating the expansion of his sphere of influence. Additionally, Thutmose III's army displayed innovative tactics, such as transporting boats on dry land.
Before we get more elaborate with his campaigns and what made him a great conqueror, do you think it's more important for a ruler to be a diplomat or attack the opposition head-on? We want to know your thoughts in the comments.
Going back, let's talk about Thutmose III's first campaign. When Hatshepsut passed away in Thutmose III's 21st year, the king of Kadesh moved his army towards Megiddo. Thutmose III gathered his own army and left Egypt, passing through the border fortress of Jaru or Sile around the 25th day of the 8th month. He led his troops through the coastal plain to Jamnia, then inland to Yehem, a small city near Megiddo, reaching it in the middle of the 9th month of the same year.
The Battle of Megiddo followed, likely the biggest of Thutmose's campaigns. There was a mountain ridge between Thutmose and Megiddo, and he had 3 possible routes. His advisors thought the northern and southern routes were safer, but Thutmose, claiming they were being cowardly, chose a riskier path through the Aruna mountain pass. He said it was so narrow that the army could only pass horse after horse and man after man. Despite Thutmose's self-praise, such a pass does exist, although not as narrow as he described. Taking it was a clever move, since, after emerging, his army was positioned between the Canaanite forces and Megiddo. Strangely, the Canaanite forces did not attack as Thutmose's army emerged, and Thutmose's army defeated them decisively.
Estimating the sizes of the two forces is tricky, but some scholars think both armies were around 10,000 men. Most believe the Egyptian army was larger. According to Thutmose III's records at the temple of Amun at Karnak, the battle happened on the exact day of the Feast of the New Moon, which corresponds to May 9th, 1457 BC. After the victory, Thutmose's troops stopped to loot the enemy, and the enemy managed to escape into Megiddo. Thutmose III then had to besiege the city, ultimately conquering it after a siege of 7 or 8 months.
Now to another one of his significant campaigns. In Thutmose III's 29th year, he started his 5th campaign against the Phoenician cities in Syria and Kadesh on the Orontes. First, he captured an unnamed city that Tunip had guarded, and then he went inland, taking the city and land around Ardata. Unlike before, instead of just plundering, Thutmose III left soldiers in an area called Jahi, probably referring to southern Syria. This allowed him to move troops and supplies between Syria and Egypt. Some think that in his 30th year, his 6th campaign began with a naval transport of troops directly to Byblos, skipping Canaan. Once in Syria, his troops went into the Jordan River Valley, moved north, looted Kadesh's lands, and took Samira.
Thutmose also dealt with a rebellion in Ardata, which had rebelled again. To prevent more uprisings, he started taking hostages from the cities in Syria. The cities were led by elites tied to Mitanni, often a king and a few foreign Marianu. Thutmose III discovered that by bringing family members of these important people to Egypt as hostages, he could make them more loyal.
In his 31st year, Syria rebelled again, prompting Thutmose's 7th campaign. He took the port city of Olaza and smaller Phoenician ports, implementing measures to stop more rebellions. All the extra grain produced in Syria was stored in the recently conquered harbors, supporting the Egyptian presence in Syria. This left the Syrian cities extremely poor, with ruined economies and no resources for a rebellion.
Finally, Thutmose III focused most of his efforts on Karnak, especially the Iput-Isut. In this central temple, he reconstructed his grandfather Thutmose I's hypostyle hall and replaced Hatshepsut's red chapel with Pylon VI. Thutmose III also built a shrine for Amun's bark, an antechamber supported by his heraldic pillars, and a temenos wall around the central chapel with smaller chapels, workshops, and storerooms. East of the main sanctuary, he constructed a basilica-style Jubilee Hall for his Sed festival. The hall had rows of pillars supporting the ceiling, with the central 2 rows higher to create windows. 2 smaller rooms in the temple contained reliefs depicting the plants and animals of Canaan from his 3rd campaign.
To the east of Iput-Isut, Thutmose III erected a temple dedicated to Aten, where he was shown being supported by Amun. Inside this temple, he planned to build his unique obelisk, known as the Tekhen Wati, which would stand alone instead of in a pair. Although it was the tallest obelisk ever successfully cut, it was not erected until Thutmose IV did so, 35 years later. Later, Emperor Constantius II moved it to Rome, where it is now known as the Lateran Obelisk.
As Thutmose III's military campaigns and conquests continued to shape the landscape of ancient Egypt, a pivotal moment approached, the conclusion of his rule. Thutmose III's mummy was found in the Deir el-Bahri cache above Hatshepsut's mortuary temple in 1881. The initial unwrapping occurred at the Bulaq Museum, while Gaston Maspero was away, prompting the Director General of the Egyptian Antiquities Service to order a re-wrapping. When Maspero officially unwrapped it in 1886, he likely knew the mummy was in relatively poor condition due to extensive damage inflicted by tomb robbers in antiquity and further harm by the Rasul family, who rediscovered the tomb a few years prior.
As we reflect on the legacy of this remarkable pharaoh, it becomes evident that Thutmose III's contributions span the realms of warfare, diplomacy, and monumental architecture, leaving an indelible mark on the rich tapestry of Egypt's past.
I'm afraid that's all for today's video. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell. Thanks for watching.